clap to get attention. There's some $500 front row seats here if anybody wants to move forward. I think we're just about ready to kick off. Before I begin, firstly I'd respectfully like to acknowledge the traditional owners on whose land we meet here today and pay my respects to the Turrbal and the Yagara people. I also acknowledge that we have somebody joining us online, or will be joining us online shortly, and I acknowledge the country in which they are meeting today, and all of us who are in the room. My name's Kieran Shawcott. I'm the CEO of Cowan Development Corporation, which is the Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Service down on the Gold Coast. So it's my pleasure to be here in Brisbane for you guys. I'm also a board of director at CheckUP, and I don't take these jobs lightly. It is an absolute privilege and honour for me to be in the roles that I'm in, to be able to serve our communities and those who are most vulnerable and need our support at the right place, at the right time, by the right people, and I acknowledge that we have many of the right people joining us in this room today. I'd also like to extend my thanks to every Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person who's joining us during this National Reconciliation Week. It is a big week for us, and time becomes limited, and for you to give your time to be here during National Reconciliation Week, I pay my respects to you also. I'd like to acknowledge the Quake staff who've joined us, and also Quake itself, the Queensland Aboriginal Islander Health Council, which is an organisation which I've been fortunate enough to be a chairperson of in the past, and one that I will continue to have a long-standing relationship with. And on behalf of CheckUP, thank Quake for allowing us to use this training room to be able to host the event during that National Reconciliation Week. For me specifically, this is a really important week for us, given the year that we've been through as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It has been hard, but we're still standing, and I think it's a testament to the thousands of years of culture which is deeply entrenched in this country, and it's that shared history, the shared achievements, and the shared future that actually continues to drive us as people. So thank you for joining us today. Very first up, I'd like to introduce Dale, who from Noonuccal Yagara, and Dale will be opening our event with the didgeridoo performance. Give a big round of applause. We got more than that.
Hi guys, my name's Dale Johnson. I dance with Noonuccal Yagara. My tribe's from Noonuccal. Other side of the family's from growing up Bundaberg. This morning I'd like to just play a bit of didge. This is my first time doing it in front of a crowd, so just bear with me, I might get nervous.
It's the scariest crowd you'll ever have. I'm telling you. Love that. I think it's amazing when we get to open any event with culture, and so you know, on behalf of CheckUP and the team here, thank you so much for that deadly first performance in front of the crowd.
Poor Aaron, we might ask for you next year. So.
Thank you, mate. You have a good day. Cheers. Before we continue with today's event, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge Anne-Marie Liddy, the CheckUP CEO, who's joined us today and given us her time, and also the deadly black speakers that we have who will be joining us as panel members and also presenting. You know, it's always a privilege to hear from people who are so strong in their culture and who've done amazing things within their own careers. So for us, it's a great opportunity for everybody here. In terms of this is our second Queensland Primary Healthcare Network meeting for the year, and it's purposefully done every year during National Reconciliation Week, and that's our commitment to ensuring that we keep this conversation alive, and we will continue to keep this conversation alive for many years to come. It's an opportunity to bring together people from different sectors, different nationalities and different cultures, and an opportunity for us to be able to share where we're at with things and hear from some black excellence. So thank you for joining us. I'd also like to acknowledge Hester for sponsoring and supporting the network and the event series again this year. And so in addition to the housekeeping, I just wanted to let everybody know that there will be photos and videos that will be taken during the day. So if you don't want to be in them, tough luck. No, I'm joking. If you are camera shy, please just let a CheckUP staff member know, and we'll try and blow your face in or superimpose something very special onto you. We do have a number of speakers again, but I want to try and keep today a little bit interactive. So if you're in the audience and I'm doing a panel or we're doing a discussion, I'm probably going to pick on you at some point in time. Don't take it personally. Anne-Marie will pay for the counselling. So be prepared to be surprised, and there's some faces and names that I do know in the room. I won't let you escape. As I said, this week is National Reconciliation Week, and it is a time for us to celebrate our shared histories, our achievements and our culture. The theme for this year is now more than ever, and I think that's a pretty powerful theme given where we've come from and where we need to go. It's a reminder to all people that the fight isn't over. The fight for equality, the fight for equity and the fight for justice remains, and for us now more than ever is a nice catalyst to push us forward on a springboard. I think, and we'll talk to it a little bit later, there have been opportunities that have been lost, but for me it creates that really nice platform forward in terms of, well, what's the new and what's the new for us as a collective. Reconciliation, it's essential for the healing, the justice and the ability for our people to continue to move forward in an equitable society. I think that's really important. We talk about equality and we talk about equity. The whole catalyst around reconciliation is about allowing us to continue to move forward. But in the context of our people, the ability for us to move forward requires us to be able to acknowledge the past and be able to have those conversations about the truth telling and being able to have that solid ground to move forward. For me particularly, I did write a couple of notes down. I'm not really good at reading from notes or actually having notes. I normally do speeches and leave them in my pockets. But there were some things that I really wanted to hit today in terms of what it means for an Aboriginal person and what reconciliation means specifically for me, because I did find a certain event last year really disheartening, and it was really hard for me to come back from that event and work out what my why was and what my pathway forward was. And from a vulnerability perspective, it was quite a different me. But I've come 6 months later around full circle and have been energise myself, and it hasn't been as a result of anybody else but the people who surround me and those who give me the energy to continue to do what I do and not actually losing the why, which is around my mob. And so the several reasons that I've been able to plot out for reconciliation and our way forward include addressing the historical injustices, and so how do we do that and what do we do in that respect? And for an Aboriginal person, it's just the acknowledgement of the past wrongs is such a small act to allow us to move forward. It'll allow us to heal those historical wounds and stop the intergenerational trauma that continues to affect our people. And in order to be able to do that, reconciliation helps address that and it helps heal those wounds. So promoting social justice and equity is something really important to me, and it's around not only ensuring equity and equality, but also respecting rights and sovereignty. And if you don't know what that means, I implore you to actually take on board what I'm saying and take the time to actually unpack that a little bit more. But you know, for us, including our rights and our self-determination and respecting sovereignty and our unique cultural identity is something that is extremely valuable for every single Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person. And I'm not talking for everybody in the room. I'm talking for myself and my own lived experience. Fostering the mutual respect and understanding, and what better week to be able to do that during National Reconciliation Week. And people often talk about allies and the allies who support our cause. Well, I want an accomplice, and I talk about my accomplices because they're the ones that are going to be sitting next to me in jail. My allies, you're going to bail us out. I think there is room in this world for both, but trust me, we need both, because to have an ally and to have an accomplice is actually really important. Because around the messaging around National Reconciliation Week is that we've got our own unique lived experiences, and some of us lived through a time where school did not allow Aboriginal education to be actually a part of the curriculum, and some of us have gone along our own journey through education to be able to find out, and people have done 2-hour cultural awareness trainings and know everything. I think it's that ongoing lifelong learning that we actually need to engage with and know that the story never ends, and it certainly never ends for Aboriginal people. Strengthening communities and relationships is something really important to me, and it's been my lifelong vision around being able to empower communities and you know, the strengths, the resilience, the leadership, and supporting aspirations and providing inspiration. I think they're really key for our mob, and especially for our children to create a stronger generation, and then creating a better future. And I don't say that lightly, because our people weren't afforded generational wealth. Our people were denied prosperity. And for me, having shared prosperity and being able to help our mob understand what that actually looks like, whilst being able to give back and create a sense of community, is something that I'll certainly strive for. So I guess from a message point of view, and sorry Mary, I've probably spoken too long, reconciliation is not a process, it is a journey, and there is no destination. And if we continue to live and breathe it and have our allies join us and bail us out at times, and the accomplices be right beside us, I think that, you know, we've got a very clear path forward, and all we can do is strive to be a better generation and create a better generation for the next, and we'll get there. The organisation that I'm CEO of, I've been with for 17 years, and this year's our 30th year, and they did a video this week, and they wanted to talk to me, and I was completely blank, had nothing to give, and which is kind of strange because I can talk underwater at times. And they asked me where I wanted the organisation to be in 30 years' time, because we've come so far in 30 years, and I said, I don't want us to have a really big problem. I don't want us to be the same organisation that we are today, because I don't want our people dying earlier. I don't want our babies dying at double the rate of non-Indigenous babies. I don't want our people to be the highest number of people who are in jail, nor the highest number of kids that are in out-of-home care. I want our organisation, our board, to have a really big problem because they don't know what their purpose is and they don't know what their why is. And I think that is something that came out at that point in time and really hit home hard. So, you know, I guess today the messaging around now more than ever, I hope that provides the context and the platform of what that actually means for an Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander person. So I guess, you know, in terms of the way forward, we've got some pretty deadly panellists who have joined us today. So I'd like to actually welcome them up. The first person I'll welcome up today is Cass Nest, and so we have Cass here. Give her a big round of applause. Do a spin. Shake that baby. But she actually has a baby. So Cass is a proud Ngunnawal woman born and raised on Bundjalung and Kumbamerri country of the northern New South Wales area and the Gold Coast, and she's travelled from northern New South Wales to be with us today in the car with me. Lucky Cass. Cass has over 15 years experience working in health and with a focus on improving the health and wellbeing of our mob. She's used her innate cultural knowledge and ways of knowing, being and doing to inform and facilitate meaningful engagement and partnerships with First Peoples and to deliver strategic leadership, to empower self-determination and achieve health equity. So this is black excellence on legs. Give her a big round of applause. We also have with us today, we've got Jesse Green. Welcome, Jesse. Give him Jesse's the owner and manager of Yilay. Jesse's a proud Bachelor Wupabara Gunditjmara man born and raised in Brisbane. He's been involved in the Indigenous community in all aspects of his professional life. He firmly believes that helping to empower and educate younger Indigenous generations will inspire the next generation to be future leaders. Jesse founded Yilay to address the need for fresh, vibrant, yet culturally appropriate apparel, promotions and signage. And as an organisation, Yilay is proudly 100% Indigenous owned and operated. I think that deserves a big round of applause, mate. You can, in the room today, you can check out the CheckUP shirts that I believe the artwork from Leah Cummins is on, and these were produced by Yilay. So welcome, Jesse. And welcome to all of our panel members who sit within the audience with us today. Give them a big round of applause. I can see some faces. Might have a chat. So the team have been given questions, but they're not the questions that I'm asking today.
That's right. I said on the way up, I have the worst baby brain, and I know, like, it's definitely not a cop-out. Like, I cannot put a sentence together. I was like, I've made notes. He was like, you won't need them, this is why.
Just try and read them.
Thanks.
Just winging it anyway. After questions, there's nothing written down.
But I guess probably like in terms of an opener, I think this week is a pretty special week for us, and it does have a different feel to National Reconciliation Week in any other year that we've been in. So I guess probably I'd like to throw the floor open and throw over to you guys to sort of provide some opening statements in terms of where you're at culturally, how you're feeling, and any sort of key messages that you may have been prepared for that I'm going to make you unprepared for.
Yeah. Go first? Yeah, that's cool. No dramas. Firstly, before I start, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today, the Yagara and Turrbal people. Pay my respect to elders both past and present and emerging. Yeah, I guess, as Brother Kieran was saying before, unfolding the stuff from last year, to be completely honest, I wasn't surprised with the result of the referendum. I know we're only scratching the surface in regards to education. Having worked with Cape York Leaders Program and a lot of our kids that were in boarding schools and stuff like this, and seeing how it is in a lot of them old boy and old girl kind of schools, and the education that a lot of these kids are learning, there's still a long way to go. So I knew from a broader perspective, that we potentially wouldn't get it over the line. So I wasn't too surprised with it, even though it does hurt, and to know a lot of that stuff. I think moving forward, and I'll touch on it a lot, is the education side of things, coming from that kind of background and working with students and stuff, you're seeing, obviously in the lead up to the referendum, a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of non-Indigenous people reached out to me, friends of mine, family, even people that I've just met, asking the questions, oh, what do you reckon, what's your thing, you know? So I feel education is a massive step forward, and something that's going to help future generations a lot. That truth telling you spoke about is a massive one. A lot of people say, oh, we just need to move forward. If we're going to be one, we've just got to move forward. But the issue is a lot of that hasn't been addressed. So, and it's still live today in legislation and acts like this that are still prominent today. So, you know, the only way moving forward is addressing the whole lot as a whole, and not just trying to sweep it under the rug.
We don't want much.
No.
It isn't hard. It's not hard work, is it?
No.
It's to be heard.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if we're being honest, I don't think the referendum should have been everyone's vote. I think Indigenous people ourselves should have been the ones voting on it, because it's for us.
Yeah.
So that's just my personal opinion.
Cassandra.
Yeah, so I also want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we're on today, and paying my respects to our elders past, present and emerging, and to everyone else in the room that identifies. And there's a leader of the Gold Coast that says that it's our shared history that is the reason why we're all here and together, and to just really extend that to everyone as well. I agree with everything that you've both said, and I think Kieran, your opening really summed it up for me, how I was feeling. Like it's been a really tough year. It's been a really tough year working in black spaces. It's been a really tough year working in shared spaces. The education side of things was, I agree, that really was lacking, and then the cultural load on black fellas to be able to provide that education when I firmly believe that it's the non-Indigenous 97% of the population that should be educating themselves. It's not our responsibility, but we do take that cultural load on as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, because it's our future, and we want to be able to share our knowledges, and but I'm hopeful. I am hopeful that what I have seen in this last 6 months is people were genuinely shocked, and I wasn't shocked. Like I stand with you there. Like I wasn't shocked at the results, but a lot of people were genuinely shocked, which means that they then had that reflection. And so what I have seen in our communities is that reflection of, okay, well, if this didn't get across the line, then how do we support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people moving forward? And again, like what you've both said, it's that truth telling, and it's not asking for a lot. It's that acknowledgement of being heard, and being heard is really powerful in every aspect of life, and it's a basic human right. And I think we just keep striving forward and knowing that we will get there.
And I think when you get to that point of acceptance and you come out, you're able to actually see the good that surrounds you. And at the point in time in which you're going through it as an Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander person, it's hard to get to that point where you see the good. It was like, well, I'm never doing a panel again. I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And the perspective around, well, actually, there is good within community. It was probably not good timing. There was missed opportunities. Messaging wasn't probably sharp enough. And yeah, it was that sort of hope that sort of dimmed. But I don't think that every ounce of us needs to rely on that hope, because for us as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, we have voices, and we've continued to use our voices for many years for good. I think in terms of now more than ever, what does that strike for you guys?
Yeah, I'll
No,
leave
you're
this.
right. Yeah, you're right. You're straight on.
Like I said, I think I have seen and noticed that our allies, like you spoke about allies and accomplice, like there's a lot more accomplice coming out now, and our allyships are stronger for the people that I'm surrounded by, and I think now more than ever is really sort of a testament that we can still keep moving forward. Now's an opportunity that, like I said, that shock value for people that thought that it was kind of a given, that like everyone wants this or it'll be fine. When we reflect that it was a landslide, that it isn't that way, that shock factor has really brought our relationships, or has made those relationships stronger, I think. And it's a talking point. So it has been a talking point in moving forward, and how we can better be supported to facilitate reconciliation, to facilitate treaty truth. So I think it's it's prime opportunity to gather our people and gather our networks and gather our allies and our accomplices and forge that way forward.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, especially after what's happened, is a lot of people, like you're saying, want to stick their hand up, and they're after more tangible outcomes and tangible partnerships. Yeah. I think we're kind of gone to the days now of all the tokenistic stuff, like you were saying, what's it for? You know, after what's happened, what are we doing this for? I think there's just got to be and you can see it, there's a lot of people that reach out, and there's a lot of good hearts out there that actually want to do something that's going to benefit our communities. And like you're saying, all our allies that did vote with us or whatever have come out of the woodwork and are starting to help us out in regards to those spaces. And like I said, the partnership side of things is a big one as well. As we know, I won't go into it because I need a little more questions, but I don't want to touch on any of those. But yeah, that's what I feel.
All right, we'll have a look around the audience now. We're going to pick, if you can pick one person each, because I would really like to engage the audience and understand, why you're here and what's drawn you to this event today, and what does now more than ever mean to you. So the tables have turned. Go hard.
Go first.
Who's looking shame? You have a name tag on, but I can't read it. But you've got a name tag.
Lou Ross from Brisbane South PHN.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess for me, what resonates is I see myself as an ally, maybe an accomplice now, and have been for many years and done a lot of work in discrete Aboriginal communities as well. And I think, well, yeah, for me it's just around being an ally and being here and sharing this week and with everyone.
Thank you.
I've seen a few name tags disappear as we went.
I'm going to pick Jan Roma or Mari
I
Muir.
was dodging Jan because she saw me look at her and I was like, oh, okay, Jan.
I'm going to work out who.
She's like,
I'll pick one of them. You go.
no, you're...
No. I'm saying don't pick my ones.
Oh.
No, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Might go either one of the team in the red shirts.
Calm brother.
Because she's got, there's a little black.
He's got
and
his
obviously
sunnies on his head and he's looking that way.
Either one in the red. So I'll let you throw one of the bus.
Well, I've just started with this team. Newest member. But yeah, I guess I'll go. So yeah, for me, like we work at Prince Charles Hospital, Connecting Care Country Program, and we've obviously had events like all every day this week for Reconciliation Week. One of the things I sort of noticed and sort of the negative thing was the buy-in from staff. Like for me, like that's sort of soul crushing. Like they got an opportunity to learn. So you know, I've sort of been thinking in the back of my head, like how can we get buy-in from staff member around the hospital? Yeah, I understand like people work on stuff. So for me, like having opportunities like this is rare. You know, we've given them a whole week to come in and learn about our culture, our history, all this sort of stuff. me, like, it's really, like, I'm a bit of an optimist where I like looking at the positive sides of things, and, you know, even if we talk about, like, the adversity that our people have gone through, I think it's really, like, binded us really strong in our culture and our connections. So, for me, I love seeing that sort of stuff, seeing, you know, mobs sort of pulling each other up and going, hey, we're going through a shit time, but, you know, we're doing it together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of just my sort of thoughts. And obviously, I'm here to learn and listen and be a fly on the wall until you point me out.
Thank you, mate. Go on, Nori. I can't do it to her. She'll flog me.
So I think this was kind of eye-opener from last year, mainly because this year I've had the experience of going to the reconciliation gala dinner, which was interesting to see how many allies are there, and I wouldn't say accomplishments yet, they're on their way, but I think it is about that education and taking the time to get people to understand where we move from now, because it's all good to say, yes, we're here to support you and want to do that, but it's that change in the system of actually implementing it.
Yeah.
And I think the more people we have advocating that is going to see that change, because we can continuously have our voice, but if we don't have people advocating in the system and changing it around the table and having not just the black face sitting at the table making them changes and suggestions, having our non-Indigenous people voicing it, it's going to make the change that we need, and to be able to tell the truth. Because for some reason, when a non-Indigenous person is saying it to another non-Indigenous person, they're actually taken on board more than they feel like an Aboriginal person saying it's guilting them. So it's quite interesting to see the different approach when you have a non-Indigenous person telling another non-Indigenous person. So I do have hope, and I think there is going to be change, but once again, we need our allies and our accomplishments to fight that. So
Yeah. Thank you. And I think that's a perfect segue into, I guess, around advice from our panel members. So what can organisations do, or, you know, non-Indigenous allies and accomplices do to support reconciliation?
I guess from a business side of things, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So there's so many Indigenous businesses out there that can cover in regards to your supply chain and all this as well.
Deadly shirts.
Shirts, hey, toilet, you know, paper or whatever
Everything.
you need. There's actually Indigenous organisations and businesses out there that cater across the board. You know, I find obviously with what I do, there's a big need around this kind of work, and NAIDOC week coming up in a month's time, and then you might not hear from your corporate client for a whole another 12 months. You
End of
know,
the financial year.
yeah, exactly. End of financial year, let's get some NAIDOC shirts.
Yeah.
You know, for us, it's 365. You know what I mean? That we're
It's all
black
year
businesses running. So, you know, and I think just opening the spectrum a bit and going, hey, we don't just need that, and which a few of my clients are really good at doing. They're pretty open, and they've got, you know, Indigenous bodies with inside their orgs that kind of push and promote all that stuff, where now we just supply their stock stuff as well. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be too flash. We do their Indigenous group and their team, and in one of their artworks, etc., from one of their team. But then over here, you know, okay, we need some shirts for this office and that, and it's just embroidered or whatever. And I mean, you can do that across your whole supply chain. I think there's got to be some accountability there as well, because as we know, when you support an Indigenous business, you support an Indigenous community. A lot of it goes back, like Kieran mentioned, we're 100% Indigenous operated, 5 staff, all Indigenous staff, and that's just not who work for us. Then we've got our contractors. We always have Indigenous photographers, Indigenous models, obviously Indigenous artists. Everything we do, we engage. We try and bring in an Indigenous group as much as possible and give them an opportunity. And on the backside of that, if it's something we can't supply, and I know there's an Indigenous group that does it well, I'll forward it over. No, oh yeah, you know, you've got to send something my way. That's just how we operate. Part of one of our bachelor laws, which is GARI, as people know, at Harvey Bay Fraser Island area, is if you have plenty, you must share. And that's kind of universal across Australia with our mobs. So that's just part of it. There's no point myself and other businesses going up here without bringing our community along. So.
Deadly.
Yeah, I think having some type of First Nations or Indigenous procurement policy is a really good place to start. I looked at your stuff, it's so deadly. I wore this and I was like, I don't want to support them anymore. I'm not going to name and shame, but I knew it, and it was the only thing that fit.
Same.
So
It's all
don't
right.
shame me.
I've got to bring out more
Don't
ranges.
point it out yet.
I've got to bring out
I
more
know.
ranges.
I know. I
I've got
looked
to
at the
cater.
scales and I was like, oh, yep, okay. What's the minimum order quantity?
Yeah.
Have you got
We'll look
scrubs?
up there. We do scrubs.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So
Yeah.
I don't know anyone from Gidgee here. We do all their stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, Sherry up there's been fantastic, and we do both the polyester style or the cotton as well. So with full artwork, so Gidgee's jump straight on them. And I know they're up there. We did Huggies as well.
You hearing that,
Steady.
Quake Mob?
Yeah, so we do a lot of that stuff. So and then high vis and all that. We do the whole lot. So yeah.
I think, yeah, for me, like I have a background in health, and so it's really great to have leaders that support non-Indigenous people at lower levels, but it's about bringing those Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people into positions of power and supporting that through workforce development and actually addressing the systemic issues around what that might look like, because it is difficult when you've been working in a system, an organisation that's set up and is inherently systemically racist the way that it's been set up. So breaking down those barriers is a long fight. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but things like implementing policies and strategies is a really good place to start, because while sometimes we have great leadership in organisations that are standing beside us as allies, and without, like, once they move on, without those policies, procedures, strategies in place, it kind of just falls apart. So I would really urge, like, to formalise those types of agreements, policies, if you're in a leadership position where you can support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in that way. Co-designing, that's my bread and butter as a Aboriginal woman in the consulting space, is co-designing with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities to be able to, in every aspect, in everything, in shirts, in health services, in hearing what people want and need so that it can be addressed. I really liked, was it Nairi? Nairi, I really liked what you said, Nairi. That resonated with me so much, because it is the non-Indigenous people that have a way of speaking that, for some reason, as soon as you're identified as an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person, especially as a black woman, you're seen as aggressive or trying to guilt or shame. Or one of the strongest experiences I have working in this space was with, like, one of my most positive experiences was with, I worked with Health Consumers Queensland for a little while, doing some consulting work for them. And the previous CEO there, Melissa Fox, is an incredible woman. And she was invited to a ministerial something, I can't remember what it was, where they were talking about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nursing and midwifery across the state. And she said to me, she sent me the list, it was like a late invitation, she sent me the list, she said, how many First Nations people are going? And I looked at it and I was like, I can't see anyone. Like, I couldn't recognise a name that was an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person. So this might have been 2 days before. So she then contacted whoever had sent that invite and said, you need to get some Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people at this table. Wasn't sure where that landed. So on the day, gave up her seat at the table. She had, I think it was 60 seconds to say where she thought midwifery and nursing should be in the next year in that space. She rang me, called me in and said, you've got 60 seconds, speak, and gave up her seat. So it's those things where you have opportunity to actually make a positive impact, to really seize that opportunity, to give Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people a voice and a seat at the table. I think we've been fighting for so long to have a seat, that if you don't see First Nations representation on First Nations matters, you should call it. And it's those types of things that are really going to make an impact for us moving forward, is to be able to amplify that voice in that way.
I think absolutely. And that answers the final question I have in terms of what gives you hope. And I think that's a very clear example of what gives you hope. Did you have any closing comments that you wanted to make in terms of the notes that you made for the real questions that you came?
I was winging it anyway. 'Cause I was lucky I did wing it, so I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready. But no, I guess not just for our Indigenous crew, for our non-Indigenous crew that are here and either watching or logging in. If you can bring someone, one of Arnie's mentioned it the other day, and it sat with me at another event that I was at. She said, if you can just bring that one person along with you for the journey, you won't realise how much of an impact that's going to make, because then that person brings another and another and another. So even if you can get it across, or the message across to that one person, I feel in a generation's time, who knows where we're going to be, but hopefully in a better place. So.
Well, that concludes our panel, ladies and gentlemen. Can we give them a really big round of applause? I'm hard to be married to, and I'm hard to be a father, and hopefully I'm a hard panelist question asker. Look, it's I guess in the spirit of National Reconciliation Week, I'd acknowledge both Jesse and Cass for giving up their time today, and encourage each and every one of you to check out the businesses that both of these deadly talented Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander people offer, and support local black excellence here in Brisbane. So thank you very much. Cheers. I'll see you in the car. So our next speaker this morning, our first presentation actually, is Sophie Bulge from Reconciliation Australia, who's joining us online. As a senior officer at Reconciliation Australia, Sophie works directly with Stretch and Elevate RAP organisations to support reconciliation aspirations and unique project commitments and ongoing leadership. Sophie also manages the health and medical portfolio and facilitates the work of partners in those industries through different stages of their reconciliation journeys. Sophie lives and works on Bunurong, Boon Wurrung country in southeastern Victoria, and is passionate about realising an equitable and reconciled Australia where the richness of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures, knowledge and contributions are celebrated and amplified. Today, Sophie will be sharing with us some insights from the Workplace Reconciliation Action Plan Barometer. So I'll hand over to Sophie, who's online. Thank you.
Thanks, Kieran. You guys can all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. It's wonderful to hear and so nice to see so many faces. I'm trying not to think about how large my face probably is to you guys. But yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here, dialing into this fantastic session. So thank you, CheckUP, for the invitation. Yes, as Kieran said, I'm joining you from chilly Bunurong country down in southeastern Victoria. The Bunurong people have always been the sovereign owners and custodians of these lands and waterways, and I feel very privileged to have been raised on this beautiful country, and now to get to be back here as an adult, learning more and more about the long-standing connections, traditions and cultural practices that have taken place here for millennia. So I want to begin by paying my respects to the Bunurong elders and community members, past and present, and of course to all First Nations people on the call and in the room up there today as well. So yes, my name's Sophie. I'm a senior officer in the RAP team. I work with a lot of health and medical organisations, and so I've probably connected with a few of you in the room. I love supporting this industry. I think there's so much amazing work to be done and so much that is being done and so much to be done. So yeah, it's a very exciting role and I feel very lucky. So today I want to speak to you about the Workplace RAP Barometer, which many of you will probably be familiar with. The WRB is our biennial survey that looks at the attitudes towards and perceptions of reconciliation among employees of RAP organisations. So it's taking place again this year over the coming months. So hopefully some of your organisations have signed up to participate already. It's a really great tool for providing in-depth understandings into the actual impact of your reconciliation work, and it facilitates key insights into the areas that require greater focus. So it helps organisations to meaningfully consider the actual impact of their RAP activities and to make those necessary changes. Since the RAP program began in 2006, it's been an ongoing principle of the RAP network to challenge and support organisations in an ongoing journey of change and constant improvement. So the results of the WRB are provided to organisations who participate, but they also allow us at Reconciliation Australia to understand the broader impact of the RAP network as a whole by sort of comparing the aggregated RAP employee responses with the results of the Australian Reconciliation Barometer, which you might have heard of as well. And that measures perceptions and attitudes towards reconciliation across the whole Australian community. So not necessarily just RAP organisation employees, sort of a snapshot of the broader Australian community. So it shows us where RAPs are making a difference in comparison with the rest of the Australian population. And it includes specific areas and things like racism and awareness of Australia's true history. So I'll share with you some stats today about the last WRB, which was run in 2022. And we had 205 organisations participate with over 32,000 respondents from those organisations that engaged with the survey. And the data I'm going to share with you shows that the RAP program and the efforts that your organisations are undertaking, both individually and collectively, it really is having a meaningful impact on changing the attitudes and behaviours of Australian people in ways that advance reconciliation and justice for First Nations peoples. So the 2022 WRB shows that organisations with a RAP continue to lead the way in changing perceptions towards reconciliation. On several measures, the Australian community's attitudes towards reconciliation in 2022 reflect those roughly of the RAP community in 2024. So sustained RAP action in the intervening years means that the attitudes of RAP employees today are significantly ahead in terms of education and perceptions of the general community. So I'll take you through some of the key findings, and at times I'll compare it with the results of the last ARB, Australian Reconciliation Barometer. There's a lot of acronyms here, so that you kind of get a bit of an idea of how things are tracking in that way. And I'll sometimes compare it as well with the results of the 2020 WRB, just to see how we've kind of come in that 2-year period and hopefully where we're heading towards in this next 2024 round. So we found that a majority of employees in RAP organisations reported that their RAP improved awareness of how unconscious biases can impact First Nations peoples. Employees in RAP organisations also more widely believe that white people enjoy social and economic advantages throughout society. So 41% of people believe that, compared with the general community, in which 28% of people believe that. The majority of employees among late stage RAP organisations, so sort of more advanced, more sort of stretch and elevate partners, believe that their organisation has a very visible stance against prejudice and racism, both within the workplace and also in the public domain. And it's worth noting that First Nations employees among late stage RAP organisations, so again that stretch and elevate cohort, were less likely than their Indigenous colleagues to believe that their organisation's senior leaders would respond quickly and appropriately to deal with prejudice and racism towards First Nations staff. So that's 50% compared with 70% non-Indigenous colleagues. And that really indicates the need for RAP partners to develop clearer, more structured and accessible anti-racism policies. Other research has demonstrated the importance of a variety of channels to report incidents of racism in the workplace, and we want RAP partners to really embrace that and learn from those findings to have better systems in place. We also observed a marked change in the impact of cultural learning in 2022 compared with the 2020 results. So employees in RAP organisations were more likely to report that they had positively changed their behaviour after participating in cultural learning. So 72% of people said that, compared with 47% in 2020. And we know how valuable cultural learning is in embedding respect and education. So that's a really positive thing, that people are actually kind of engaging more in it and learning more from it. And this is actually an interesting one, because it's no doubt as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, that RAP organisations moved to online platforms to engage and communicate with employees. And WLB findings demonstrate that across that period, it offered opportunities for more employees to engage in RAP-related activities. So the shift to online engagement overcame geographic and role-related barriers that might have previously hindered some employees from participating in those kinds of activities. And it increased accessibility, resulting in a measurable surge in both attendance but also engagement and education. So the 2022 findings capture some of the positive impacts of the increase in engagement. Of course, there's still immense and additional value in cultural immersion and face-to-face training that you don't get online, but the finding really demonstrates the promise of online platforms as a gateway to deeper cultural engagement from staff, and that kind of awareness and education piece that's so crucial. I won't go through any more stats, but thank you so much for your time today, and to CheckUP for inviting me along to speak to this important work. If you haven't signed up to participate in the 2024 WRB and you would like to, or you'd like some more information, please get in touch with me or the RAP team. I'll be really happy to help, and I'll share the details how you can do that with the CheckUP team to circulate after the event. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you for taking the time to join us, Sophie. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Our next speaker today is Tara Lewis from Indigenous Allied Health Australia. Tara is a MN woman and has a background in speech pathology. Tara is the Knowledge Translation Lead at IHA, and IHA is a national member-based Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander allied health organisation. IHA leads sector workforce development and support to improve health and wellbeing of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. In her role at IHA, Tara manages the coordination, implementation and delivery of research activities and projects in collaboration with communities. Central to her work is the development of culturally safe health education curricula and supporting the growth of Indigenous allied health workforce. The CheckUP team have had the pleasure of working with Tara and IHA over the past 12 months and having completed the Level 1 and Level 2 IHA Cultural Responsiveness training. And I'm sure Tara will share about that training with us today. I went to university with Tara over 20 years ago, so it was, it's a great thing to see Griffith University alumni coming through and doing amazing stuff. So if you could put your hands together and welcome Tara. Over 20 years ago. Far out. I was like 8 years old.
We haven't changed a bit. Not a bit.
It's like a child genius.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for allowing me to come and have a yarn with you all today. Firstly, I would like to pay my respects to the unceded sovereign peoples of this land that we gather upon today, the Yagara and the Turrbal people. Would also like to acknowledge sovereignty was never ceded, and thank the Yagara and the Turrbal people for walking the lands and showing us the way and allowing us to continue to grow on these lands. I'd also like to acknowledge and pay respects to my family as well. As Karen said, I'm an Iman woman. I've got traditional ties to Taroom area in central Queensland. And I'd like to just pay respects to my family for the struggles that they went through and had to endure to give me the opportunities that I have today. With that, I often tell people my dad wasn't, he was 24 before he was 23, 24 before he was a citizen of his own country. So, acknowledging that and understanding how those struggles and, what he lived through to give me the opportunities that I have today can then be passed on to my kids as well. I've grown up in Meanjin my whole life, been here, my whole life. Born in that same hospital over there that most people in Brisbane are born in. And I'm lucky enough that my kids get to go to Brisbane State High as well. So, these connections to this country is really important to me. Whilst it's not my traditional lands, I still have connections to these lands and want to ensure that I'm walking softly on these lands and growing my kids up to also pay respects to the lands and leave it as our ancestors have. Which brings us here today to Reconciliation Week, and when you're thinking about what you're going to yarn about, what you're going to talk about, Reconciliation Week sometimes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples is a time of angst as well. We often say that we don't have much to reconcile. It's the history, our shared history that we have. It's the policies, I guess it's the colonial project, isn't it? So it's still acting the way that it was intended to, unfortunately. So we still have racism. This place, the very fabric of this place has been stitched in with racism. So in order to move through that, I guess, with reconciliation, and we always talk about, I've always talked about NAIDOC Week being our week of celebration. So Reconciliation Week sometimes, like I said, can cause some angst because you don't know who's in the audience. You don't know where people are situated with their understanding as well. So I think, that truth-telling now more than ever is really important. So for us to be able to foster that truth-telling and understand our history, but also not just the history, but also the ways in which we need to move forward together as well. Because I know sometimes when we talk about race, when we talk about racism, it causes some discomfort. So for us to be able to move through that discomfort and sit within that discomfort is really important, in order to be able to move through some of that fragility we might have, and then allow Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to have voices as well, and to be heard and to be listened to. And I guess this nation has also taught us the ways in which we see, know and name Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as well. We see our culture as a strength, as a protective factor, but it's not necessarily how we've been taught to see us and our people. So as a speech pathologist, I was taught to see Aboriginal languages as inferior. We weren't necessarily taught about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages, in fact. But we all know that language is a protective factor. It's about our identity. You can't move forward, you don't know who you are if you don't have your language. Whether it's just, a couple of words here and there, or if you know your full language and it's being revitalised. So I guess, understanding the ways in which we have been disciplined by our discipline to see us is really important. And then being able to dismantle those racial ideologies around who we are as well is really important to make that transformational change and to change the systems in which we operate today. And I guess that's why IHA was created as well. One of my good friends, Lynn Oak, she's an OT actually, she got some funding from the Department of Health and Ageing way back in 2008. And so she was asked to support the Indigenous Allied Health Network. So to get a group of us together to create an Indigenous Allied Health Network. And so she got 9 of us together, and I'm so privileged to be part of that as well. So very lucky to be part of such an amazing group of Black excellence as well in the allied health field. So she got us all together and we had more of a vision. We said we don't just want a network, we want to create an organisation that centres culture, that creates a Black collective so we can work together to allow the people that have gone before us for their voices to be heard. And so we all met up in Melbourne and said to Lynn, this is where we want to head. And so here we are in 2024 with over 1,700 members now, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Allied Health. Thank you. In all of the allied health disciplines that we have and all the diversity that we have as well. And our vision is to ensure that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have that ongoing connection to self, country and spirit. So ensure that our services are accessible, ensure that our services centre culture, and ensure that we remain accountable to the people that we work alongside in our communities. And we want to make sure that we pave that way as well for the young ones to come through. You know, we always talk about our elders who have paved that way, who have laid the foundations for us to continue that work. So we don't, as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, don't just think about, you know, the here and now. We're always thinking about those generations, so my kids, and what they're going to bring through as well, to ensure that their kids have a better life and more accessible services to them as well. And I think IHA, I guess we have a really good foundation with Indigenous leaders as well. We were talking about having Indigenous leaders in services as well with co-design, making sure that we have mob in the room and at the seats and at the tables. And I think IHA are doing that really well. Our CEO, Donna Murray, she talks about nation building. So she wants to build our nation. She wants to ensure that our values, our sovereignty are seen within all the work that we do, and that we are always responsible or accountable to the communities in which we work with as well. So we talk about cultural responsiveness. So we talk about cultural safety, but what does it mean to be culturally safe and responsive? And that it's more around those relationships. So, you know, we talk about being a relational mob, you know, who we went to uni with or who we know, you know, our aunties and uncles. And sometimes I think when we get into organisations, we think about exchanging of information to support the way that we function. But, you know, us as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people don't necessarily work like that. We work through those relationships. So those relationships are the most important part of who we are as people. Not our job titles, or what we do necessarily, but it's about those relationships and maintaining those relationships. And those relationships are really integral in ensuring that, you know, the people that we are in service to are heard, seen, valued and included as well. So cultural responsiveness is not just about cultural awareness, it's about, like I was talking about, around that centrality of culture as well. It's about being transformational also, so it's about taking those knowledges that you now have, not using it as a commodity, but using it as a way in which we can change the narrative. So rather than seeing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as a deficit, we want to see Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in a relational form and being able to change the ways in which we work. And I think cultural responsiveness, you're able to see that impact that racism has as well. Just wait for the slides to get back up.
Sorry, is that yours next one? Or?
Yep, this one here, yep.
Sorry.
So as I said, it's about changing that narrative. So looking at culture. So we were talking about, Cass, I think you were talking about cultural load. You know, our culture isn't a load on us. It's the colonial load that creates that those problems for us, and I guess that burnout as well, because our culture is a protective factor. So we have this terminology around cultural load, but really it's that colonial load that people are putting upon us for, you know, events like Reconciliation Week, for example, and not knowing how that's going to go and having, you know, bad experiences or great experiences that we've had in this room today. And so the reason why cultural responsiveness is really important is, I guess, it improves your capability to work alongside Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It takes away that power imbalance as well. It's not that power over, but it's that, you know, that relational connection that we have with people. Like I said, it's about understanding the link between cultural safety and how that relates as well to social and emotional wellbeing, and how racism is really central, can be really central to the way our systems operate as well. And it explores what we can do better. It creates spaces for organisations to endorse, I guess, or allow that like collective, and I'm really hesitant on the language that I use as well, because I don't think we need to be allowed to do things either. And I can see some really staunch people speaking up here today with Jessie and Cass as well, and you too, Kieran, the staunchness that comes from our elders, you know, from our matriarch, really. And so when I use words like allow, it hurts me in a little way, because they fought the way for us to be able to have these opportunities. So having those seats at the table is really important, and having that leadership is really important as well. And the ways I think that IHA do this really well is, you know, we have a national academy, so we have national academies that our kids come through, or, you know, adults as well, who are going through education and doing their Cert 4 in primary healthcare. So we have national academies in the ACT, in Northern Territory, here in Meanjin as well, with partnerships with IUE, and New South Wales as well. But and we have the Health Leadership Forum also. So it provides leadership that's central, that, you know, centralises culture. So it's about having those mentors around you, having that black collective that really instills that sense of pride in you, and that support to be able to speak up to the systems in which we operate. So talking to those systems that are racialised, have those knowings around who we are, being able to speak up to that in a safe way, in a safe space. And the cultural responsiveness program that we have, that we've just done, you know, spoken with CheckUP about as well. And that was, we went back, Tom and I went back to IHA and said how deadly that was. We really enjoyed our time yarning with you all around cultural responsiveness and thinking about, you know, how can we put this into action now. And for those that don't know, our cultural responsiveness programs and our framework centralises culture, as I see, in terms of our ways of knowing, being and doing. So when I talk about that, I talk about, you know, that responsibility and accountability to mob. So that's at the forefront of it. It's being self-aware of who you are, how you've come to be in this place, your ontological being, and how you have been given your knowledge as well. So we always talk about, you know, we're not just given knowledge from our elders, we have to earn that knowledge, and it's actually a gift as well. So the knowledge that we are given from our elders is a gift, it's not a commodity, and often in that Western sense, knowledge is seen as a commodity to be used in different ways. So we have those 6 capabilities around self-awareness, respect for centrality of culture, responsibility and accountability, being proactive, so standing up, and, you know, now more than ever is the time to do that, to stand up against racism. Then we also have to teach our judges about that as well. About it's not just their education, you're not just sending them to school to get an education. It's about armouring them and how to respond to racism also. And I think the cultural responsiveness program speaks to that really well in being able to transform your organisations and the ways in which you do things. So like I said earlier, there's level 1 and 2, which is self-paced, you can just do it yourself, can be online. And level 3 and level 4 is facilitated by IHA. So we come in and we support you around, well, what are your action plans? How are you going to implement cultural responsiveness into your practice or into your organisation? And how can we support you doing that? So we're always there to support you and have that, you know, we talk about the circle of influence as well, and who is in your circle, and then, you know, IHA could always be there to support you as well. So I guess responsiveness in action, sorry about the typo, but it's about leading by example, courage to challenge racism in all of its forms as well, creating those safe spaces as well for that black collective too, which is really important to feel that sense of safety. Take responsibility for creating that necessary change, and engage in partnerships too, like we have with CheckUP. And having the courage and to acknowledge and understand white privilege and the dominant cultures as well, and being able to sit with that discomfort at times too, because it can be uncomfortable to think about that at times, and then it could cause, you know, some fragility around that too, or cause you to think about the angry black woman or the angry black man, rather than thinking about the systems in which we operate, and having that commitment to professional development and training. And we're talking about allyship or accomplices, so I'll just leave you with that in terms of, you know, how we see ourselves working with our allies also. So So it's about, if you're bound up in our liberation and our emancipation, then, you know, we are here to walk with you, a bit like the accomplice. Thank you.
Well done. Give Tara another round of applause. Isn't it ironic, a speech therapist that can speak immaculately? No, it was a pleasure, and your messaging resonated, and you know, I appreciate you being here, and I bet you didn't think I'd be in deadly brown leather shoes 20 years ago when I was 20 kilos lighter and at the uni bar. Sorry, Andrew. Look, I think, sorry, I get a bit silly as the day goes on. Look, this is drawing to a close, and if I don't say so myself, I'm on point with the timing. So thank you very much for coming along. We do have some closing words from Anne-Marie, who is an ally at times, but will very definitely be an accomplice when needed. And I acknowledge Anne-Marie and her commitment to the cause, and being somebody who will walk beside us and actually make a significant difference to the lives of our people right across this country. And Anne-Marie has given a lot of her heart and a lot of her life into making a difference for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and is truly humble, one of the most humble people you'll ever come across. But on behalf of myself and the CheckUP board, we thank you, Anne-Marie, for what you do day in, day out, because you could be absolutely anywhere, but you're here. So please welcome Anne-Marie, and I'll Oh, I didn't read any of your notes then, Mary.
That's
Sorry.
That's all right. You don't need them.
Okay.
What to say? Thank you, Karen. Thank you for that. Oh. Just pull it together a little bit. I guess when I was sitting listening to this morning's session, what struck me most is how much I stand in awe of my Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander colleagues, friends, and others who are here today. And I first want to reflect how much I stand in awe of your connection to culture, your connection to country, your values, your resilience, you know, your determination to move forward in spite of all of the challenges that have been placed before you. And it makes our role as allies, I guess, yes, I do feel very humbled, and I feel sometimes really helpless to actually know, with everything that you're doing, how do we as an organisation support and walk alongside you in the journey that is today but continues ongoing. So I think today I just really want to say again and invite everyone to acknowledge just what great speakers, what a great experience has been to sit in the room today and to listen and to learn from all of the presenters today. So just ask you that. I think, you know, I really resonate, and thank you, Tanya, for the comments about Tara, beg your pardon, Tara, around your comments around cultural responsiveness, because I think that has been very much the journey for CheckUP, that we don't see this as much as events like today and weeks like National Reconciliation Week are important and provide an opportunity, I guess, to put a spotlight or a lens on reconciliation and the journey, and the, you know, the work we're doing. For me, it's most important to be day in, day out reflecting on that. So it's not just a once-off, it's not a tokenistic thing, it's every day thinking about how does our organisation, how do I as an individual, as a mum, as a family member, talk to my friends, my family, my community, and my community of colleagues in my work life. How do we influence that journey to reconciliation? And I think that has to be ongoing. It can't just be a one-off thing. So it continues to be a journey, and yes, we've been on that journey for, you know, 10, 20 years, but I don't see that it stops anytime soon. And I hope, like you do, Karen, that in 30 years' time we'll look back and think, wow, we really did make a difference. Sometimes it just seems overwhelming in terms of the work that we still have to do. So I think now more than ever, we need to be working together. And thank you to all of you for coming to support today. It's really great to have you here, and I hope that you'll take some of the messages and some of the learnings, or perhaps, you know, some of the comments that have come today, back with you to your organisation and continue those conversations, because I think that's how we can continue to make a difference. It's not just being here today, it's actually taking it back to the people that we work with and we live with, and having those conversations and continuing them. Events like this don't happen without the support of other organisations, and I'd particularly like to acknowledge Hester as our long-term partner and supporter of the Queensland Primary Healthcare Network. So I think Nanita is here somewhere. Oh, there she is. So I'd just like to invite Nanita to come and make a couple of closing comments. Just whilst I'm in closing as well, just encourage you to stay around if you can and join us for some refreshments after we close the meeting. Thanks, Nanita.
After our conversation today, it feels like great privilege to actually stand up here and be here. So I just wanted to also acknowledge the traditional custodians on lands in which we gather here today, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that same respect to those that are in the room and online today, but I feel like there's not that many online today. It is truly a privilege to be here and to gather together, and I'm going to take a page out of Kieran's book. I have got this beautiful speech written about what we do at Hester, you know, what we've done with our Reconciliation Action Plan, or the way that we invest, in particular with the, I will mention the Dawura Nilan initiative that we are supporting, because cultural heritage is really important. But as a business relationship manager, I would just like to warmly invite you to actually have that discussion with each other, but also with Hester, around how we can actually do more. So I think the common thread here is I also, like Anne-Marie, feel quite helpless in how we actually progress the conversation and what we do, and I'm sure there's many of the room that also feel that way. We like to believe that we are an ally, but I think I would love to be promoted to accomplice and earn that respect of accomplice. So if you're willing, if you haven't had a discussion with Hester in the past, please grab a card from me and we can talk, I can listen, I can learn. Always open to do that, but whether it's through our investing piece, we are a large investor, but from a more personal level, we would love to progress the education advice of your actual superannuation. We all have it. We know, you know, it's not top of mind, but if you do want to empower those that are in your organisation that you think might not be across that, it's something accessible to you and something that I'm more than happy to help discuss. So thank you, Kieran, Anne-Marie, Mary and the team for bringing us all together to this beautiful room. I think this is by far the best celebration this week or ever. And now more than ever, may we all continue to work towards reconciliation, respect and unity on this sacred land, and acknowledging the traditional custodians and the timeless connection to it. I feel like that is a nice way to round out today's event. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you everyone. Please join us for some refreshments. And I think we have had a large number of people online. Obviously we can't sort of show them all, but thank you particularly to all those who joined us online as well. And again, we hope you take the conversations from today back to and share with your workplaces and communities more broadly.
And sorry, Anne-Marie, I forgot to mention, it's our catering today is from Barunga.